Looking to start your own website? The first thing you need is a domain name, and the best place to get one is at GoDaddy.com. With your domain registration, you'll get hosting, a free blog, complete email, and much more. Plus, as a MuggleCast listener, enter code RON, that's R-O-N when you check out, and get your .com domain name for just $7.49 a year. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com.
Hello, this is David Heyman, and I'm the producer of the Harry Potter films, and this is MuggleCast.
Because some very lucky fans got to see Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 today, this is MuggleCast episode 206 for August 21st, 2010. Welcome, everyone, to the special Muggle mini-cast. This is a very special edition. We only do these when there's big news to talk about, and we got to get the show out as soon as possible. And, gosh, I don't even know what else to say. Emerson and Eric are both on the phone, also joined by Micah. And Emerson and Eric, you both got to see Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 1.
By a amazing series of events. I happened to be walking out of a movie at this movie theater a block from where I live, and a guy who works for Nielsen pulled me aside and asked if I'd be interested, myself and my friends, in seeing a special screening of a movie, and he wouldn't tell us the name. And he pointed at all the movie posters on the wall and said, you know, if it was any of these movies, Inception, I could tell you the name. But for this one, I can't tell you. But I can promise you that it's a movie you all have heard of.
That's so funny.
We were quite excited. Talked to everyone we knew. Figured it had to be Deathly Hallows. No other movie. And he also said that it was probably going to be between a PG-13 and a PG rating, and it hadn't been decided yet.
Oh, okay. So you guys, flash forward to today. You got Eric Skull in too, and
hello.
You guys so you get in the theater, they take your phones away because obviously they don't want people like sending the audio of the call out of the theater. And so what happens when they announce that you are seeing Part 1? I mean, does it explode?
Well, we knew. The intense Harry Potter fans knew because we saw David Heyman and David Yates take their seats theater before they officially announced it. So we were telling everybody there was a woman and a man next to me who hadn't seen any of the Harry Potter films, hadn't read the books, and, you know, we were telling them as well. But yeah, we knew. And then, of course, they announced it, and there was just cheering, absolute cheering from everybody.
I bet. Okay, so, well, let's get your guys' overall thoughts about it. Let's hear them.
Oh, no, you go first.
Okay, it was, I'm very pleased. I'm kind of torn because on one hand, I think that they did about as good a job as they could do, but on the other hand, I kind of, watching this movie reminded me of the fact that, it reminded me of being very inarticulate here, that the second half of Deathly Hallows was so action-packed, and there was so much substance. And every single page, so much went on that I kind of forgot, I guess, that the first half was not like that. And this movie was a fantastic movie. It was very well made. They asked us on the questionnaire, you know, what are some scenes that move too fast? What are some scenes that move too slow? And I honestly couldn't say because every scene just seemed to be timed so well. The tempo was perfect, and it couldn't have fit the way that it was written any better. The performances were as to the point as any movie that they've, you know, ever released. And, you know, just like any other movie, there was moments when you're on the edge of your seat and hair is you know, on your arms is almost tingling with excitement. And then there's the other parts where, you know, like any story, there has to be slow parts and there has to be fast parts. So all in all, I am very pleased with the movie. I enjoyed it very much.
I was going to ask you, hands down, is it the best movie so far?
go, Micah. That was going to be the first thing I was going to say. It's hands down a very good movie. You heard it here first, everybody.
All right. Well, how about you, Eric? Similar thoughts?
I agree with everything Emerson said, and no surprise here, but I prefer the movie to the book. Whoops, no surprise there. I thought it was an amazing treatment of the book. There were scenes from the book that were even intense in the book, and watching them on screen was even better, was even more moving, I think, than it was in the book. Everything. I don't know if this was confirmed. Dobby makes a return. Everybody.
Oh, no way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know we haven't seen anything about him, but he's back. And God, there were just some really awesome scenes. I thought, again, the tempo, the pace of the book, or the pace of the movie, there were no boring parts of the movie. And one thing I want to get across is that this movie did not feel like any other film I had seen. And that was strange to me, but as I was watching them walk around Muggle London for part of it, I was like, okay, what other movies have I seen that were set in London? Does this feel like any of them? No. Everything from the atmosphere to the characters has gotten this insane treatment from David Yates, and it feels like no other movie I've ever seen. It really does feel that way. And I think that's perfect because the seventh book, like it or hate it, is such a different type of book. At least to me, the fact that book 7 is so special and movie 7 is so unique, felt perfect to me.
So speaking of that, was it pretty loyal to the book?
Can you think of anything that changed, Emerson?
Well, here's something. There's been a lot of speculation about Hedwig dying. They must have changed it a little bit because we saw a picture of Harry letting Hedwig loose, and
I'm gonna make a firm statement here. I decided before the film started that I was not going to comment on whether or not Hedwig dies.
Yeah.
However, I do want to say that the scene where Harry lets Hedwig go, as seen in that promo shot, that was not in the movie.
Right. Okay, but
that was where he lets her go. That was not in the movie. Was it?
Yeah, right before they leave.
The fellow moviegoers are saying that it was there. Eric, were you watching? Yeah, were you there? Are you sure you were there?
I want to retract my answer. I want to retract my statement. Everybody in the room said that was totally in the movie. I blinked and missed it.
All right.
I thought he didn't even.
All right. So just tell us, does Hedwig die? Please, Eric. I won't be able to sleep tonight.
What?
Does Hedwig die?
All right.
Spoiler alert.
Yes.
Okay, good.
In fact,
all right, so that
surrounding Hedwig's death, I think the purpose of it that they gave it in the movie far exceeds what was in the book.
Okay,
I'm very pleased with how Hedwig died.
Okay, so the big question that everybody wanted to know coming into this obviously was, where does this movie split? Were you guys able to tell, or did it kind of leave you guys hanging? Maybe they can mix a couple scenes up, or is the split definitive?
The split's definitive, I would say.
What do you mean it's definitive? Like
it seemed like that decision had been made. It's right after they bury Dobby, which is the most, my eyes got wet. Not gonna lie. And it's right after that, and there's a scene that the movie ends with where Dumbledore or Voldemort is very
close.
Yes, he's grave robbing.
You're a dirty grave robber! Emerson almost stood up and shouted that at the screen. He was so horrified.
Yeah, and it ends with Voldemort taking the Elder Wand and triumphantly thrusting it into the sky. And
awesome.
There's this dramatic lightning show and dramatic music.
And cut to black.
Oh, wow. See, so that's very exciting because that is what Entertainment Weekly said it would be, as we talked about on the last episode. And so, Eric, it played through well. Are you happy with it?
I'm very, very, very happy with it.
Good. And did the audience seem happy with it, too? Because I imagine if the audience didn't seem happy about it, then maybe they'll change it. Because WB has been saying this whole time, we can't, we're going back and forth. We can't make a decision. So did the audience as a whole seem as happy with the split?
Actually, Yates made a comment. He was just right outside the theater waiting for a focus group to begin, and Emerson and I both shook his hand and talked to him for like a minute. He said that the audience in this screening, because they had done screenings before for Order of the Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince that Yates was at. I was actually also the one for Half-Blood Prince.
Right.
Anyway, Yates said that the audience in this screening was the quietest that they had been.
What?
And yes, he said the audience, throughout watching the film, that the audience was the quietest that they had been in the previous two films. Make of that what you will. I assured him that it was a good thing, and he seemed to think so as well. But that was his interpretation. I'm not going to top his interpretation of that.
Right.
I think it was very obvious from watching this movie that, like Eric said, it's very different. I definitely felt while watching this movie that perhaps it was the knowledge that I already had before watching the movie, but I almost could feel it almost felt like it was part one. It felt like there were certain scenes that I know they would have time if they had to make this one movie, and the scenes just it was almost like a perfect adaptation of the book, which is very strange because I'm not used to them spending as much time on a scene, as I spent in my head reading it, and they used up all that time on screen. So, I think it's something that, as very predictably, fans are probably going to appreciate a lot more than non-fans will.
Mm.
Although, I would say I didn't feel it. Well, the running time I wanted to bring up was about 2.5 hours, I would say, that we were in there
Good.
for. And David Yates said that he still wanted to, he didn't say, he said he tried to tweak. He said there's a few things he wants to not adjust or not tweak, but adjust, something like that. But he said, on the whole, and then it ran for about 2.5 hours. So that's my guesstimate.
Now, what about the Seven Potters scene? Was it technically impressive? And I guess we can throw in. What's that?
Dan Radcliffe in a bra? Absolutely.
Was that funny? That had to be really funny.
That scene was actually perfect.
It was. The scene started off with the perfect amount of levity. It was just hysterical in the beginning, and then it got so dark, so fast, but so appropriately.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
when they landed at the burrow, the gravity of the situation was very apparent. And it was chilling, and the special effects were, they weren't complete, so there was moments in which you saw it was very apparent that they weren't complete.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it was edge of your seat filmmaking.
All right, cool. Now, how about Moody's death? Mad Eye Moody, was that were you happy with it?
I feel like the characters in this, like the adult characters who I haven't cared for, I didn't care for Bellatrix at all. I hate her, to be honest, in previous films. I didn't mind her as much in this film. I really actually quite liked her. Voldemort, there's little Voldemort in this movie, but I loved every minute of that. And even Lupin was a lot easier to watch than I imagine some people would have found him before. And he had a great moment at Mad Eye's death, or around that surrounding Mad Eye's death that I thought was spot on. It just feels like Yates has a perfect grip how to change emotions and express that on film, and that the characters, the actors were all very passionate about doing this.
Micah?
Okay, sorry. What about the wedding scene? Where do they actually follow the book where Kingsley's Patronus comes down and says the ministry has fallen, the minister is dead?
Yes.
What was the scene like?
I remember when I first read that scene in Book 7, I thought that might have been one of the most haunting moments of the entire series. The ministry has fallen. It was just, that moment just made you almost afraid to read further, because you can feel what it would be like to lose that fatherly figure that I'm sure everyone must have felt like, with having at least a somewhat functioning ministry of magic, and having that just disappear, and the horror that must have caused. And in the movie, the Kingsley's voice is so deep and commanding, and it was just spoken so forcefully that it was perfect.
Awesome. A couple other questions. How about Harry? How about Umbridge? You saw her, right? Was she as good as she was in Order of the Phoenix? Because I loved her in that one.
I was so skeptical. Again, yes, Umbridge, top notch, I think. What do you think, Emerson?
Yeah, I mean, it was the same. Yeah, I was very impressed.
What about Creature?
Is this the longest recorded silence ever on MuggleCast that I've been
Yeah. What the development of the relationship? I mean, we see a lot of it in the book with Harry and Creature. What about in the movie?
Was he in it?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't see him I don't. What's the hesitation? Is it?
There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with the movie. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
With the movie, Eric, you crack me up. Should we not ask anything further about that? I don't get it. Oh, wait. He probably didn't exist, right? Because the special effects aren't done.
He was fine.
He was fine? Okay. All right. Interesting response.
Well, there's a huge spoiler alert that's going to be on this episode, so you don't have to worry about saying anything.
Well, no. I still feel like, personally, I have morals and ethics. And
was Harry talking to air because Creature wasn't digitally placed onto the film yet?
What Creature was there? What?
All right. Well.
All right.
You guys are weird. Let's see. What else to ask you guys? I mean, there's tons of questions, and we won't sit here and dwell on it. But so you said the length was 2.5 hours. That's good. The music. Somebody else on Twitter said the music wasn't complete. What?
Andrew Emerson was saying something.
Oh, what? Sorry.
I was going to say, one of the scenes I was most impressed with was the scene in which Ron returns and saves Harry from when Harry's swimming down to get Godric Gryffindor's sword and Ron destroys the Horcrux. It's like the Harry Potter version of the smoke monster. Lost comes in.
There's even sitting in the woods. There really is. And there's this giant smoke monster comes out of the Horcrux and says all kinds of horrible things to Ron. And then the smoke version of Harry and Hermione come out and they start making out. And it almost, they're not. They look just like Dan Radcliffe and Emma Watson. And Dan and Emma or Harry and Hermione are saying the same things to Ron they said in the book. But the venom with which both Dan and Emma delivered their lines could not have been more perfect.
Oh, cool.
And they start wrapping each other up and making out, and it almost.
No, they are.
Yeah.
They do. I personally thank David Yates for not holding back. I think that's my favorite scene. That's my favorite scene in the movie.
So wait,
and it almost because they were kind of smoky, like you could feel this raw emotion coming from the characters that almost made them feel like they were naked.
Yeah,
it
made them feel like they were naked.
Yeah.
So it added to the intensity of the scene.
Yeah, we're not saying they were naked.
Right. Was there some like romantic music playing, or what did that sound like? Was there anything yet?
The score was unfinished, and the music that was set to the film we were told would be removed.
Oh, okay. So
the
right.
score is when they introed the movie. They said you're going to be viewing the Deathly Hallows. They didn't say just part one, so I was wondering if we were going to get part two too. But he said you're going to, some Nielsen guy, didn't specify part one, but it was part one. And he also said the only thing about it is obviously the special effects, some special effects, and the score is
like Creature.
Incomplete. We've dubbed in a temporary score.
Okay. All right. So, guys, anything else to say? Anything disappointing? Was there had to be something you saw and you were like, dang, I wish they did it differently. I guess it may be a little hard to say since it's not 100% complete, but was there anything disappointing that you saw? No?
The great thing about this movie was that they captured so much more detail than they could in any other movie because they had so much more time.
Okay.
Because they split a normal-sized Harry Potter book into 2 movies. I felt like they didn't leave any rock unturned. There was no major, plot twists, plot changes, any sort of, there's no veering off from the book. In the other movies, there was always something major that had everyone, everyone up in arms over. But this one, there was nothing I could think of that wasn't, very necessary.
Good.
Yeah. So, one final question I had, though, was about the Horcruxes. How did they go back and explain some of the ones that are in this film that maybe they didn't do a good job of in the previous films?
Micah, I was really concerned about that, too, because I said, movie 7 is time to play catch-up on what you've missed in, former movies. But I feel like how they treated it was just fine, and I think that very gradually the mission that Harry, Ron, and Hermione are on is presented to the audience gradually and only as much as we need to follow the film. So I won't say that there was this extreme backstory moment, but the bits that we did got purposefully set up what they did need to do, and I think that it was explained okay.
All right. So jumping back to what... Go ahead.
Hold on, Andrew. One very general thought that I have about the movie is that, at 2.5 hours, splitting, this book into 2 movies, at 2.5 hours, I, of course, as a fan, I'm going to enjoy, as much, Harry Potter as they're willing to throw at us, we're going to wrap it up and we're going to enjoy it. But I have a feeling that if I was a casual viewer of the movies, I would have wanted to see this movie shorter. I think we're definitely going to hear people. We're definitely going to hear people talking about this movie needing to be shorter.
Interesting. All right. Well, I guess because that's an interesting sort of thing they have to fight with, because obviously the hardcore fans, everybody wants this final book to be adapted as nicely as possible, and like you said earlier, you think it's got tons of detail, and that was the thing they were promising. They said, now that we do have 2 films, we'll be able to get everything in, and people were still hesitant because it was like, oh, everything or WB's version of everything, which is like a little more than the past films, but still not as much as fans want. But you're also saying, on the other hand, it may be a little too long for people, which is very interesting. So, well, guys,
Return of the King a little bit.
What's that?
Where, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Return of the King. A movie that was, celebrated as being, this, amazing work of art. And even casual fans of the series still enjoyed it, but a lot of people still felt that it was, just a little too long, even given its stellar quality.
All right, guys. Well, we will let you go for now. Obviously, very exciting times, and everyone stay tuned to MuggleNet.com. We'll have more coverage about the first screening of Deathly Hallows Part 1. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.